So there was an AI, you know how we know about AI agents, right? AI agents complete certain tasks that you build them to create. Someone created an AI agent and told it that it needs to be able to replicate itself to, tackle large tasks. And it created 999 versions of itself. And each baby version of itself completes a micro task for the senior version of itself until that task is done even faster. And I think that's absolutely crazy. I want to try this out myself. I just wonder how much faster it's able to complete tasks versus a regular AI agent at the moment.
Hey, welcome back to Cyber Digest, where we inform you and give you knowledge about everything that's going on in the 4th, 5th, and 6th Industrial Revolution. Now, we want to thank everybody who's been tuning in each week because you guys are giving us the energy to continue and you're really making it exciting. And I really like one of the many comments that we received, but I want to spot out Academic Club. He said, I help students use AI to write smarter, write better assignments, and tackle homework efficiently. So I've been really enjoying all the topics you've been covering lately. Thank you so much, Academic Plug. We appreciate you. And today, you're going to be mind blown because the information that we have to give you today is really amazing. There's a lot going on within the tech space, and it seems like tech is becoming all consuming.
Yo, I mean, it's all that we are exposed to these days. I mean, TikTok facing 500 million euro ban. Fine, sorry. And then Meta just dropped 2 new AI models. So yeah, and also an AI clone that clones itself, something
like a swarm of bees, Let's dive into the first one. I mean, I think the European Union. So one of the beautiful things I heard about Europe, right? Many years back was that in Europe, if you've got a bank account, that account number, it belongs to you. So if you move from JP Morgan to ABSA, from ABSA to Standard Bank, you're allowed to keep your account number. So that 1765, because they believe that digital data belongs to you, right?
It's like porting your number.
It's like porting your phone number, yeah. So you just need to say to people, this is their account number. It'll always be the same account number. It's just the bank that you need to give them, right? Okay. And now seeing that the EU is now fining TikTok of 500 million euros, what is the EU doing that many other countries are not in terms of protecting people's data?
Okay, so here's the story. We have China, we have Europe. China is allegedly storing data from TikTok users in Europe, which is a big story. Because I don't know if you remember, maybe 2 years ago, Trump was alleging that China and TikTok are actually stealing American data, which led to the ban earlier this year. I don't know if you guys remember that. Yeah. So that's a whole big story, and this is actually the second time that Europe sues TikTok for stealing users' data. The first time it was about $200 to $300 million fine. But this time it's going up to at least $500 million. And this is why this is a very sketchy story. Because imagine you on TikTok, you've been chatting with your friends, you've been your algorithm is very catered to you and your needs, the ads that are very directed to you. TikTok has been storing all that data on their system in China.
Oh man.
Which they've been lying about the entire time, saying that they haven't. So it is a bit of a scary story to understand that maybe if a company claims not to have your data, but they actually do, can we actually trust them in the end?
I feel kind of betrayed.
I do. I personally want TikTok to be closed down.
Yeah.
Hectic.
And yeah, I think one thing about the Chinese is that yes, they're aggressive, but I think now they're aggressive in the wrong way. So the Facebook CEO comes out and says that the TikTok algorithm is built like a casino. Right? A casino basically has no windows. The exit doors are very small and you want to be lost inside there and people lose their money.
That's an interesting analogy.
And he says that the slot machines, you lose, dopamine hit, you win. Yeah. You lose.
The constant scrolling.
Yeah. And he says that's exactly how TikTok has been built. And I think for me, what I realize, especially with YouTube, is that at least YouTube saves the data of who you really are.
Yeah.
And what that means is that if you've been watching the wrong stuff, YouTube will show you that you're watching the wrong stuff. It's a reflection of who you really are.
Yeah.
But with TikTok, what I've realized is that it takes advantage of your brain and not necessarily who you really are.
Yeah.
Because majority of us are not scrollers that want to watch people falling off a tree.
I heavily disagree because my feed, I know if I've just seen one TikTok, liked it and maybe peeked through the comments, it's going to give me more of that kind of TikTok.
Yeah.
I
Also,
have a practical example
I'd like
disagree.
to, and I actually disagree.
That's my favorite
You were
How
singing
come
that
all of
the other
us?
time.
How come all of us have seen? We will meet at the graveyard, and it's like an old taxi, or it's a car that's going to cause an accident. What type of content is this?
You know, I think the genius thing about TikTok is that you may tell yourself that, I mean, who wants to see a man falling off the tree? But it truly feeds off of that kind of subconscious desire hidden somewhere, and it capitalizes that. And whose fault is that?
It's yours as the user.
It's
you're-
marketing.
Also, you'll
Hold
see
on,
in the
hold
comment
on,
section,
hold on.
people always say, "I love this side of TikTok."
Okay.
Can I comment to stay on the
Hold
side
on.
of TikTok?
So
That's
on
what they're
TikTok,
doing.
for
And you
me,
know what, nah?
My TikTok has started, and it's showing like a taxi that's like
That's more
half broken.
run
But
down.
hold on.
That's very
What
telling.
part of me wanted that to happen?
That's very telling of you. We should be asking you.
Why you
Your
have that kind of
algorithm,
content?
and you know
all
what?
of you guys,
Why don't you have Uber
and
Black
viewers
and
out
Mercedes
there,
Benz?
viewers out there, I want you guys to let me know. Have you heard of this on TikTok, or what's the bad thing that you've seen on TikTok? Another thing, guys, I think we underestimate the fact that culture is being created by social media.
True.
And young people are believing it. I mean, like, it starts off with a tweet, and it starts off with a TikTok. Sorry, I said a tweet, and it ends with an attitude of like, "Oh, dude, we're all
you're
gonna
right.
die."
Yeah, I mean, many years ago, it was newspapers that were building narratives, and now it's social media platforms, TikToks. I mean, we saw it even with the elections and Musk, how he kind of leveraged his platform to campaign for Trump. But yeah, and that's why I feel kind of betrayed. I mean, my algorithm is a very personal thing. I wouldn't want anybody to see my algorithm.
Oh, but
it's
they
like
know.
it's
They
like
know.
it's like
They
people.
know.
Yeah, it's like
And
people.
we know
Nobody's
they
gonna know.
Exactly. You know, it's kind of like that shame that you'd feel if somebody peeks into your search engine history. Like, and an algorithm is worse. I mean, you know, that's why I feel betrayed. It's something so personal, something so deep that even myself, I don't fully understand, you know? And for
But
them
that's-
to just be
that's-
leaking that.
That's my question. If TikTok is still standing 10 toes down that they don't have access to this data, but it's been proven on Europe's side that they do, and they're suing for a second time, how do we know that Chrome doesn't have this data and is storing it? That Apple doesn't have this data and is storing it? Microsoft, all these companies that claim to be so secure, how do we know that they aren't?
America's
doing
the
same
father of
thing?
regulation and patents and copyright. I
And
beg
the land of the free to access all our information.
No. So hold on. I think companies that are in the US are very ethical because the US government itself tends to protect a lot of its citizens. And as a result, they tend to, like, for example, if you want to open a bank account anywhere in the world.
That sounds like good PR from Hollywood.
Yeah, also,
okay, let's not get
if
into it
anything,
because-
we've learned that Mpho really leans towards the Western corporation and
toes down.
American side. Like, we know this.
Okay, I'm backing down. Back
There was
to the
even a
point.
comment in the previous episode that was talking about that. And they were actually very right.
Back to the conversation because I can already tell I'm going to be roasted here. So my thinking is China is keeping TikTok data because they want to create products as fast as possible to sell to Europe, right?
Yeah.
Because obviously our algorithm definitely tells us what we like, fashion-wise and all that. And essentially, if China can get it from the point of you liking
Yeah.
the page on TikTok, and then those factories begin to manufacture, and then the next next week, it's basically at your doorstep. I think that's very dangerous.
Yeah.
But also for me, you know, a lot of data is telling of what people need and what they want.
Yeah.
And for me, that's a little bit concerning because then you can manipulate a whole nation with an algorithm.
I won't lie, you sound slightly hypocritical, right? So I tend to remember what happened in previous episodes that we've shot. And I believe it was episode 3 or 4 where we had spoken about cookies on websites. And I was telling everyone not to accept cookies. Please still don't do that. You said, no, it's a great thing to click on cookies because then ads are more catered to what I want.
If your
I would
data is
prefer-
private, though.
But I mean, what my question remains, how do we know that this data is private for any company?
Look,
Whether you say it's private or not, or whether they say it's private or not, we don't actually know at the end of the day.
I think there are data laws that would keep us comfortable, but I do hear what you're saying. But I don't know. Saying that all data is accessible or is not hidden.
The skeptic in me says it probably is accessible to these companies and they wouldn't disclose if it wasn't. Unless somebody or an entity or a government goes and investigates.
So we know that in the US, obviously Trump has given TikTok a bit of an extension. TikTok's got 170 million users there, and obviously they need to find a new buyer because the US will not allow TikTok to function if it's owned by the Chinese.
Yeah.
Because essentially, I think in China, the government does have a lot of power.
Yeah.
And I think it's this type of situation where government can walk in and say, open up your service. We want to know what the Americans are thinking right now, what they're doing. But for me, it's understanding that whoever buys TikTok from China has to buy the lawsuits as well. And yeah, I'm like, whoa, there's over 1,500 lawsuits. So if anybody buys it, you could be sued to the ground.
You could. But I really think it's such like, I think a lot of people are looking at it as like a gold mine. I think TikTok is something so valuable that I think they'd be willing to put a lot of money, even just
considering the amount of data
even covering
they
that
have.
debt. Yeah, I think it's.
I see Amazon is in. Jeff Bezos, he wants it.
Of course.
So that's going to be interesting. But also the founder of OnlyFans, he also wants it.
Now that's very concerning.
Very concerning.
Now that's very concerning.
Youth out there, we are your
that is
voice.
very concerning.
We're helping you here.
Because I can already see how this is going to go.
Where it's going, exactly.
Jesus.
I mean, there's already been loopholes on TikTok of people being a bit inappropriate on their TikTok live. So imagine if the founder of OnlyFans has access to it.
I've never heard of that. Are people
it's a real thing. And people are very concerned because there's obviously kids on TikTok just casually scrolling. Yeah, there's a lot of explicit content that sort of finds its way through TikTok, live streams in particular.
The thing, I personally think algorithmic social media feeds should be a choice, because for the user out there, a lot of them don't even know that the algorithm is controlling them.
Yeah,
I had a beautiful story, a sad but beautiful a story from the former huge Google CEO, and he says if a teen is suicidal, the algorithm on TikTok will ensure they commit suicide. And he was explaining on how every click will bring them closer, closer up until they do that, right?
That is dark.
And he was just explaining to say, it like suicide is a contemplation, then becomes an idea, then you buy the ingredients or the things tools. The tools, And he was saying the algorithm will continue luring that young person in. I personally think we need to ban TikTok immediately, number one. Number two, I think every single platform must disclose algorithmic to say, are you opting in for the algorithm to learn and give you what you want? Or are you opting out? I think because
that's how social media used to be. It used to not like use an algorithm per se, the way that we know it today at least. It used to just be Instagram, here are your friends' pictures, go, 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 go. And now it's catered specifically to pushing other people's content before your friends. I mean, 95% of the time, you don't even see your friends' content on Twitter, on TikTok, on Instagram. So I agree with that. It should be an option to opt in.
Yeah,
I really do agree with that.
Back then, there was also a huge emphasis, of course, on what people are actually talking about, what is trending. And now it kind of really goes deep, in a very psychological way where it's learning from you, your habits, things that you weren't even completely aware of. And now next thing you know, you're watching some weird ass freaky video and apparently you liked it.
It's the rabbit hole.
Yeah. I went over to a lecture recently and the lady was essentially saying that social media companies are going to go bankrupt. And she was basing it on the lawsuits, right? So, I mean, if you guys don't know, TikTok's got about 1,500 lawsuits from child regulations to, they've got lawsuits coming from all over. Yeah. And while listening to the lecture, I was like, bankrupt through lawsuits? And I thought, maybe not, right? But if you guys think about this properly, let's say, for example, what the EU is doing, you have to pay a fine of 500 million euros for keeping the data, right? If you had to get maybe 10 kids that committed suicide and the algorithm has got proof that they did so, right? That would mean that TikTok would need to pay off those parents and more parents joining and more parents. Do you guys ever think we can get lawsuits literally bankrupting companies?
Most likely. But also, sorry, we can get back to this, but also why would TikTok drive suicide? Doesn't that mean they're losing users?
Yeah, I think it's more so it's more so a symptom of the way that their algorithm is optimized also. So
not that it's intentionally there to kill the person.
Yeah, I think it's just a symptom of, and their algorithm, I mean, it's part of what makes TikTok. So, you know, for them to just go a different route, I mean, I think it would be difficult for them because, I mean, it essentially the rabbit hole feeling, that feeling of going deeper and I mean, that's what makes TikTok.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it is a tricky one.
Do you think the lawsuits would win? Do you guys think they would have a chance?
Some probably. I mean, the child regulation, what one? That one, yes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that are not child friendly on TikTok.
I think if one of the American companies, like Amazon, I don't think it's gonna go very far. The lawsuits, that is.
Do you guys think that companies would literally shut down lawsuits by like paying off people and like silencing?
Oh, definitely. I mean, if it's the EU, I mean, there's a lot of lobbyists that be silencing a lot of things behind the scenes. So we saw it with cigarette companies back in the 90s. So it wouldn't be anything new.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's interesting. What's our second story?
So, Meta, I know you're not much of a big fan of Meta, but yeah. So, Meta's Llama 4 has just released 2 new AI models, and apparently these AI models are more efficient, more lightweight, and very robust. And now, the great thing about this new release is that they're open source. So, a company as large as Meta is releasing 2 new AI models that is open source. I mean, that's very big.
Yeah, that is quite big.
People are going to be able to modify them, train them, and also just use the data from these AI models. So, yeah, I think Mark is trying to get on the good side of history that is being made currently. I think he's been on the bad side for a very long time, but
I think it came after his rebrand.
His rebrand has been incredible.
Yeah,
I'm a huge Mark fan.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. He's also into Buddhism now.
And I think he's also like more public. Like I think I've been enjoying his interviews a lot more lately. He's been doing like a lot of podcasts and interviews and stuff like that, and it feels more like he's enlightened in
more
a way.
Human.
Yeah, more human.
Yeah.
Before he literally looked like a robot.
Yeah, so that is crazy. So yeah, I think Meta is really trying a lot of ways to just over the past years, with the metaverse, I think that hasn't been going as well as they initially planned. Facebook kind of plummeting. So I think they're really trying to reposition themselves within this current AI or technological landscape. And I think this is a good way to reposition yourself. I mean, other AI models or AI companies aren't necessarily open source right now, but I know OpenAI is looking to go open source with one of its more very lightweight models. So yeah, I think this is good though.
Yeah, I think for me, and I've been just doing a little bit of research because obviously you can take a speech, put it into MoCha, and essentially it gives you a video, right? And you can do the same thing with the text, right? Put it in and it gives you a video. And obviously these things are going to become a little bit more realistic. And I think for me, my concern is that have we come to the end of YouTube?
No.
Have we come to the end of explainer videos? Have we come to the end of Hollywood? And what I mean by the end is, are we now no longer going to be focusing on human beings doing production and now going to be focusing on AI content? Because, there's a research study that I looked into that says that 30% of production, literally from scripting right till the end, can already be done by AI. So we're left with 70%. If that moves to over 50%,
I've got a bit of a hot take. I think we've been fascinated with AI for quite some time now, right? And the things that it's able to do. I really do believe that we're going to reach a point where people get sick of AI generated content. I know in the past 2 weeks, I've sort of been getting a bit tired of it on my social media. So YouTube, yes, people are going to use it without a doubt. They're going to be making videos using it to enhance their audio, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
But I think we will reach a point where people are starting to look for the human touch once again. I do think so.
You sound like somebody who's telling people to go to the theater when TV started. Because remember, before TV, it was theater, right? Everybody went through for the theater because they wanted the human element. And after some time, yes, maybe you guys, when was the last time you went to a theater?
Like 3 weeks ago.
Okay, cool.
Company year end.
No, but I don't mean theaters in cinema. Hold on, guys.
Oh, you mean
theater as in
theater?
Physical, yeah.
Oh,
that's what I mean.
Wait, like the theater,
like a stage people acting
where
on
people
stage.
are-
Oh, I wanted to go.
Acting.
I'm actually gonna go soon.
But hold on. Is that then not human content? Because you're saying we want to see humans acting.
Okay.
And like now when AI content looks real and looks better than humans,
Okay.
isn't it going to be a little bit like everybody wants that?
I hear you.
Yeah.
Right. I understand. There were screens that were introduced. People were like, no, we still want to see people in person, whatever. That's not the case anymore. But that still exists. Cool. It might not be as popular. Cool. That's fine. But what I'm saying is the fact that maybe it will get to a point where you can't even tell the difference between a human generated video versus an AI generated video.
That would be sad.
And people are going to love it. That's fine. But I do still think there will be a point where we're going to be done with it. Not that it's going to go extinct or anything. It's only going to get better. But I do think there'll be a point where people just tap out and they're like, I want to see human creativity once again.
Yeah.
I definitely don't think so.
That'd be quite sad. I mean, I don't mind the kind of AI really infiltrating Hollywood and then 50% production. I mean, listen, as long as humans are still very much involved behind the scenes, I'm kind of open to it. But then I'm thinking like, yo, does that mean I don't get to see some of my favorite actors do their thing on screen?
Yeah, like I'm not
against
just
AI generated avatars,
the use of
characters.
the AI. And I know it's going to continue being more AI, less humans. What I'm saying is we're just going to get to that point where I can see there was no human involvement yet from start to finish. I want to get rid of this. Where are the humans? Where are the people here? Let's jump into that kind of content once again.
I think we're gonna get so overstimulated by AI generated content, where even the content itself is just so lifeless because it's AI that we start to become detached from things like film, music, and things like that, and we essentially start to seek other forms of things that really stimulate us emotionally and even intellectually. So
that could be a good point.
Yeah, because if I'm just watching AI movies that that are just, they seem off. AI does seem off. You watch
and there's also a point where it's very repetitive, if that makes sense. Like a lot of the content's like, okay, I can tell this is AI, this is not AI, but they still feel exactly the same. Like it was generated by the same person.
And the scary thing is it's only getting better. I mean, Mpho just mentioned Meta and Meta's MoCha. I mean, they just worked on this new feature which is kind of perfecting speech, text and speech to video, which is incredible. I mean, you'd watch an AI video back then and you could see something's off. I mean, the lip movement and even just the body language, the facial expressions. But now that gap is kind of being bridged. Like you'll watch a movie and it looks real. It's like you're watching a person talk. Yeah. They're even saying things, which is mind-boggling.
Yeah, I do think though that we might not be the right target market because a lot of anime watchers, and I've got a friend who watches anime and he loves anime, right? Yeah. And he only does anime. And I keep saying to him, I'm like, oh, why don't you watch other stuff? He's like, no, I love anime. I like to take my mind on a journey. So I feel like a lot of anime people are slowly going to become AI people because I think anime now is just going to be focusing on AI. And I feel like a big chunk of the market will also be the same, where they'll sort of move into AI because there are certain things that human beings have got limitations to.
Yeah.
And I think those things are, for example, like a good story. Let's say at the end of a season of a very good story, like Game of Thrones, if somebody had to say, you know what, since they've ended season and it's going to take another year, I'm going to create the continuation from the book.
Yeah. We're still waiting.
That's an enhancement of human-made content, and that's great.
But listen, what if AI could have told, what are those guys, J.J. Abrams and forgot, what if they could have told them that, season 8 of Game of Thrones is actually ass. This is how you should actually do it. And we could have gotten maybe a better final season. I don't know. I'm just saying it could have. But what's the weirdest thing that I've been seeing about AI, which is such a testament to how AI is becoming so ubiquitous and just in our everyday lives, is that AI influencer thing that I see on social media.
Guys, people are making money. I saw a thread of some guy that actually has an AI influencer.
I saw that.
You know what scares me is when you go into the comments and people are actually interacting with this
like
AI.
It's a real person.
What the hell is this?
Talking like I want to meet you.
Dude, like
respond
what?
to your DMs.
Oh, you look so pretty. Like...
Oh no, it's a real
it's the
business.
weirdest
it's
thing ever.
Industry. It's
like you're literally in the Matrix and people are just asleep. Like, people are actually interacting with these AI. So guys, if you don't know what AI influencers are, they're essentially AI avatars that people have used to set up like social media accounts on social media. And you go on their profiles and you see a profile picture, you see a persona, but it's AI generated. Everything, the images, the captions, everything that's there's AI generated, but it gives off the impression of a real person. And these AI influencers have a huge following.
I noticed that, yeah.
Which is, it's crazy because you go into the comment section and people are there, like thousands and hundreds of comments, and people.
The crazier part is that there's actually brands that approach these AI influencers and tell whoever's running that page, generates, an outfit or content with your AI influencer wearing our brand in this kind of environment.
The most disappointing thing for me would be if I had, say, a 15-year-old boy and I just see him following these AI influencers.
And that's just his whole feed, just AI influencers.
Yeah, he's there in the comment section. Oh, you look so good. And
and they can't even tell the
such
difference.
A disappointed
That's
father.
The crazier part. What if they can't tell the difference?
I might have to disown that kid.
Damn, it's not your child's fault.
Yeah. But
I think this is why, for me, I feel like human beings are lagging behind. And I do think that we're going to get to a point where people are focused very much on AI content. I think for me, the other important part about it is that we kind of have AI not giving people what they want. And I think maybe that's the missing link. Because if you think about your favorite movie character and a series done with your director on AI, I think it changes stuff.
It does, but it's like we're trying to perfect everything, and at what cost? Like, I feel like we're just gonna become so numb to everything because you're essentially gonna wanna combine a pizza with a burger. Like, why? And then an AI is gonna give you that flavor.
What would you do if you found out like your favorite director, the past 2 movies that they made were like 95% AI? And you found out today, like he just came out and said, I didn't want you guys to initially know. I just wanted to test the waters. Past 2 movies. You love them.
I'd be heartbroken. But then I'd really go the next day. Like the next day, I'd lock myself in and really get locked into AI and see how I could just make millions off of people, because there's no way.
I mean,
I got scammed that easily.
Why not do it now then? If it was able to perfect
actually right now,
your director's,
that's so
creation.
Crazy. And I think a lot of studios are probably doing. I mean, studios are constantly looking at ways to cut cost.
Yeah,
it just and it only makes sense. I mean, years back, people were just really focused on just the VFX, visual effects, and then CGI came along, and then people are still anti CGI. I don't get it, but you have CGI, which is kind of just bridge that, like, you cut costs. You don't have to have like live stunts and these expensive VFX. You can just computer generate images and visuals, and now we have AI generated things, which is fine. I mean, there's that movie, The Brutalist, that gained a lot of acclaim.
Won an Oscar.
Yeah, literally won an Oscar. Even the actor who was actually they used AI to enhance his accent.
Was the main character?
Yeah, so this is the guy. He literally won Best Actor at the Oscars. So they used AI to enhance his Hungarian accent. Which is crazy.
But I think also, I don't know if we mentioned in the last meeting if I was speaking to you about it, but like at what point, because as an actor, you need to have multiple skills. If maybe it's a movie about boxing, for example, it's just like Creed or something, you need to be fit. You need to be able to speak in whatever accent. You need to be able to run. You need to be able to do all these different things to embody that character.
Yeah.
Why not compromise on one small little thing like an accent or I don't know, like the color of the hair? You know what I mean?
I'm not too against it, actually. The accent. I mean, because as far as accent goes, there are limitations. So I'm cool with that. It's just maybe it's like, where do we draw the line? Let's say
I think we've reached the point where we know AI. There's no line that's being drawn.
There's gonna come a
AI
point,
is the one that's generating that line.
Because there will come a point where all of these big movie studios are going to be like, well, you know what? Now we have AI models that can generate lifelike characters, and so I don't need maybe a Leonardo DiCaprio. I can just have my AI model study his mannerisms, his performances, his everything about him, and replicate that. And you know what? Make it even better. Let me add a Marlon Brando to his kind of mannerisms or whatever, and make him better, perfect it. Or let's get a movie, make it in the tone and style of Scorsese, but let's add in somebody else to give it a bit more flair, maybe like Tarantino or something.
What I think would be a cool idea now, because people are so attached to actors. Let's say I grew up watching Zack and Cody's Dylan and Sprouse?
Those
two. Let's say I grew up watching them on Disney Channel since they were like 8 years old, right? What if I generated an AI model clone or whatever, put them in Hollywood and sort of raise them through the years, and only at the end of their career do I expose that this is actually an AI bot? But everyone is so attached to them
That would be
that
crazy.
they would never know.
So we just see them on screen thinking that
And
these
we
were...
love them. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Social media, everything.
But essentially, I think you're very right. The main point is to hook the viewer, get them interested in the story. And you could literally just like let the stories function just like a series that they would watch.
But it's crazy. Part of me feels like a guinea pig. Or like, a rat that, subjected to experiments.
I think that, so I saw an article yesterday on Fortune where they said 6-year-olds in China are now being offered classes in AI, right?
I heard
And they
about
want to
that.
build the next generation of DeepSeek founders. And I like sat down and
listen,
literally did the 6 years old.
One thing about China, I always respect the vision, but the way they do things...
Oh no, I'm so for it. I
was
here
like
for
6-year-olds, we were playing with paint, clay.
Did I not say, guys, let your kids be raised by these
And
robots?
I'm watching, and like they even put a little picture of these kids looking at a computer at the age of 6 and figuring out AI. And for me, I was just sitting there thinking, yeah, what you just said now to say, it's gonna feel like we're living in a simulation.
Yeah.
Where a 13-year-old can rock up to you and be like, "Oh hi, I've just hacked into your bank account and created an AI clone of your bank account, and I'm about to expose it to the whole world if you don't send me $500. And you're like, who are you? And immediately they start showing you proof of your bank account, what you've been doing. And I always feel like we're moving towards a direction
that's what
where,
the kids in China are going to start doing?
I'm not, before you, before you turn this into I have an issue with China, I'm just saying, how do you stop a kid? If a kid started AI at 6, what are they going to be able to do at 8? I mean, let's think about the next story, right? And take us through that. The cloning, Kgotso.
Yeah, so there was an AI. You know how we know about AI agents, right? AI agents complete certain tasks that you build them to create. Someone created an AI agent and told it that it needs to be able to replicate itself to, tackle large tasks. And it created 999 versions of itself. And each baby version of itself completes a micro task for the senior version of itself until that task is done even faster. And I think that's absolutely crazy. I want to try this out myself. But yeah, it sounds like science fiction. It really does sound like something straight out of a movie. And I just wonder like how much faster it's able to complete tasks versus a regular AI agent at the moment.
Sure. Now imagine this little Chinese kid, cute baby, creates a hacking bot that hacks your account. And then immediately when you find the loophole and switch it off or close it down, creates 999 of them.
Jesus.
And the kid is just 13.
And they did it in 5 minutes.
And the kid doesn't understand how exposing your bank account can be life-threatening.
That is actually pretty great.
But I mean, that's just exposing the vulnerabilities within your bank, which is a good thing. They're acting as like a cybersecurity expert.
But I mean, imagine if it moves on to your phone records. It moves on to essentially, even when you stop the one, you've done nothing. You've got 999 more to go. So essentially, we're going to have people having to create another swarm.
Defensive bots,
yeah.
That is a crazy idea, though, that an AI that is cloning itself 900 times.
That's actually giving birth. And I used to love saying that AI can't give birth to itself.
Yeah.
So we are.
And now it's
less than a year later.
Wow.
After you said that.
Wow.
It doesn't even take 9 months for it. It's just
wow. Sure. This is shocking. Absolutely shocking. And I think for me, at least let me not say at least, I hope that it cannot do this physically. Because imagine you've got a robot that's a soldier, last week's episode, and now it's creating another 900 soldiers to capture a certain type of people.
Is this from the Chinese? Just out of curiosity.
That would be quite interesting.
That would be interesting. I'm not too sure myself, actually.
Wow. Wow.
Because I mean, that's what China's doing. 6-year-olds are literally
learning AI.
Literally.
Jesus.
Sure.
So right now, what do these like swarm AIs, I guess, do? Like, will like the AI clones carry out various tasks or like?
Yeah. So they specifically built for the military, which is quite scary. And I hate that they started with the military. So yeah, they want to dominate the military industry rather. And
Sounds like
be
American
able to
or
work.
Chinese.
It could probably. What about Russia, guys? Why are we never looking Russia's way? Because they're more than capable of doing
I
this
don't
as
think
well.
so. I think it's probably Chinese.
You think it's the Chinese?
Yeah.
So essentially, they need to like be able to. Well, they're training them to be able to hack networks and be able to penetrate them as well. And it's a scary, guys. If it was one AI, cool, I could say, there'd be a defensive version of it. But one AI that replicates itself to be able to tackle one specific task.
And imagine if this AI loses control somehow.
Yeah, and it's built for war. That is a big concern.
Yeah. And also, I mean, like we said last week, AI can't, I need to say yet now, it doesn't have a form of consciousness to say, I am hurting this woman. She's pregnant. Let me not shoot her in the head. It doesn't have that. So it's deeply concerning. 900 of them.
I think I want to start like studying a bit more into AGI. Because you're saying now that it doesn't have a conscience, but I think AGI is going to be the thing that allows AI to start having a bit of a conscience, because it works by itself, it builds by itself, it dies by itself if it chooses to die. So I want to study a bit more into AGI, because that's the next level after this entire AI boom that we're facing. It's crazy.
I don't think I want to be around when...
Oh, you're going to be around. It might happen within the next year, probably.
There are people who believe in rapture, that they're going to be caught up in the air. So those of us who are going to be caught up, we're going to be out of here when these things happen.
Yeah, I hope that comes sooner than the
because whoa.
Oh, you guys are willing to die tomorrow, within the next year?
It won't be dying.
Don't put it that way.
Well,
they won't be dying.
We're going to a better place.
So I have a question. Our tech spotlight. What has been the tech spotlight? And I think for me, I'll start. For me, it's the fact that all of a sudden, Vertex, which is Google, is now getting much better at images. So I just looked at some of the prompts that they're doing. They're getting really slick with designs. The images are looking really, really good. But I do feel that Google, having so much data on images, they should have been leading, not Sora, because Google, you've been in this thing. So them catching up now with some of the images, I think it's really cool. And then some of the images that I've seen are really, really cool. Some of them not so much. Some of them really amazing. And I think, we're going to be seeing quite a bit happening in terms of image generation from all these different AIs.
Yeah, quite interesting. My tech spot, Jesus, what is going on? Tech spotlight, sorry. Tech spotlight for the week is actually Grok. I've been actually playing around with Grok, and I noticed something on Twitter. Every tweet now has this little icon at like the top right hand corner with like the Grok symbol, and you press it and it gives you context and additional insights on that specific tweet.
Wow, I haven't tried that.
Yeah, so it could be a tweet that you tweeted and it essentially analyzes that and gives you insights and possible links to anything related to that. So it's actually quite incredible. I mean,
so deep research for tweets.
In a way, yeah. So maybe deep context or something like
context.
That. Yeah.
That's
so I'm liking the way that they're actually integrating Grok into the Twitter platform or X platform, so they're really making it seamless. I mean, even the way you can use deep research on. So yeah, I think I've really enjoyed that. And also the way that people have been using Grok online, just to fact check like, oh, Grok, is this even true? And
I've seen that a lot.
Yeah. So that's been quite interesting.
Okay. My tech spotlight for this week. I've been playing with image generation quite a lot, and I think the past few tech spotlights were featuring image generation platforms. This week, it's a platform called Picture Studio. So what I like about this is that I know AI has been making very hyper realistic, looking images, which is great. We're going to continue playing with that. But I've sort of been feeling, like I said in the past 2 weeks, kind of tired of AI looking content, that I've sort of wanted to create like an older, Cartoon Network boomerang feel to the images that I'm making. So I've seen that Picture Studio is able to do this very, very authentically in a way that ChatGPT can't. And maybe even DALL-E is unable to. So yeah, I don't know, maybe I'm just already getting tired of AI, and maybe it's just me, but I've just been feeling very reminiscent these past 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Wow. There is something I think called AI fatigue, because it's a completely new world.
Yeah.
So you go in hectically and then you're just like, whoa, I need to come back to the real world. And you go in.
True.
Yeah. So that's quite interesting. All right, gents, we're going to start, well, ladies and gents, we're going to start adding a new feature onto our show. We have decided that we want to actually invest in companies that are doing amazing stuff in the artificial intelligence revolution boom. So we're going to let you in on what we're doing. Let us know if you want to see this part. And yeah, from next week, we're going to be, looking at stocks, looking at companies that are doing amazing stuff in AI and actually investing, engaging. And it's a way for us to interact with you guys, a gamified experience that you guys are also able to come with us throughout this experience. And remember, we always love hearing what you guys want to hear and what you guys want to see. And believe it or not, today is our 10th
episode.
10th episode, guys.
We're growing.
Yeah, we are. And we're actually happy. Just the little community that we've built over the past 10 episodes. Yeah. That's been great, man. The interactions, and that's been lovely. And we hope to see you. We hope to actually keep you guys still around by our 100th episode, 500.
Facts. Yeah, I think the engagement has been my favorite part by far. You guys commenting, sort of rebuttaling against our views. I really do enjoy that quite a bit because it also gets us thinking about the next piece of content that we're going to create, whether we really stand firm and 10 toes down in our own opinions, all of that. So please ensure that you always remember to comment on our social media post and here on the podcast on YouTube. Thanks, guys. Keep following for more episodes.
Thank you so much. We're out.